And starting this game off here on Destination, we have skyFORKnet at the 12 o'clock position, and CudleZerg down at the 6 o'clock position. This is a part of a new series that we decided that we'd like to create. There's been a lot of practice games that we've been, putting together, practicing for these matches that they take part in the team league. And some of them have actually been pretty epic. So we thought, what the heck, why don't we just cast them? So once, twice a week, we're going to come at you with some cool practice matches. And currently, this was actually from the series that CudleZerg played against PurpleWave. I believe it was the 4th match. And skyFORKnet, though, just to hop back into this, starting off with a Forge Fast Expand. Meanwhile, CudleZerg, seemingly opting for a 12 hatch, does have an Overlord making. But yeah, CudleZerg had been playing against skyFORKnet and told me that this was a pretty epic game. And I thought, what the heck, let's cast it, put it up there, and let people enjoy it. So, skyFORKnet adding on the Forge, and CudleZerg is opting for that 12 hatch. Sending out a drone now. skyFORKnet doing a little light probe harassment, however, deciding not to try to block that hatchery. Is attacking these newly made drones though, and quickly getting pushed away as all three turn to attack it. skyFORKnet adding that cannon is a little early in our opinion to do that. Typically, human Protoss players at least like to skip the cannons and go straight to the Nexus if they don't scout a pool. Just like that, and actually, the pool is just making now. So we'll have to see. skyFORKnet though, opting for the incredibly safe opening, is adding the 2 cannons before Nexus. Meanwhile, CudleZerg has about a natural hatchery 50% finished, and his pool roughly about 40% finished. And this probe has been relentless, constantly harassing his drone line. Have several drones that are hurt there. CudleZerg finally getting into the main. Isn't really seeing a ton. Is immediately throwing down a 3rd hatchery in the natural. And morphing Sunkens, it looks like. Possibly thinking that there's a proxy or something going on. However, not realizing that it's actually a Forge Fast Expand. It's not even a gateway on the map yet. And sealing this off, yep, I gotta imagine he thinks a proxy or something's coming. Why else would you seal off your SimCity here before you even take in your 3rd? However, moving over here now, is going to catch a glimpse of this gateway making at the natural and these cannons and realize he's actually misread this whole situation. And in fact, not morphing these creep colonies just yet. Possibly realizing a little sooner than I said that maybe there's nothing actually coming. Is going to immediately send out another drone, we imagine, to take a 3rd. And meanwhile, skyFORKnet starting that core. Still no gas or higher technology for CudleZerg. However, CudleZerg opting for that 3rd over here at roughly the 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Is only pumping out drones and overlords currently. Meanwhile, skyFORKnet core about to finish. We'll have to see what tech path they want to take afterwards. Do have zealots being created, but no +1 being researched currently. Has also finished mining out that back part. Is possibly scouting around for any sort of attacks or anything like that that might be coming. And sending out 2 zealots for probably some light harassment and poking. CudleZerg finally finishing off the defenses at his natural. Probably in no short order, as he does have some zealots coming at him. Meanwhile, that 3rd hatchery, about 80% done. And we do have the gas production finally started for CudleZerg. And these zealots immediately coming in, hitting these Sunkens. Probably not the best idea, as these Sunkens should basically take care of these zealots in no short order. However, has scouted out the 3rd hatchery with the probe that went out with the zealots, deciding to send the zealot back and opt not to attack the 3rd hatchery. Or excuse me, the 3rd base. Does have a Corsair almost finished with the Citadel of Adun. Just finished warping in with legs just started. Also warping in some cannons, or a cannon, possibly more cannons. Meanwhile, Sunken colonies going up for CudleZerg. Taking his natural gas and has finally started that layer, about 50% done. Doing a massive worker transfer with some lings for protection. Is going to finally take out this scouting probe, and that 2nd scouting probe isn't going to be able to escape, as that Sunken does finally finish warping in. And adding a Templar Archives and more cannons in its natural and main. Is deciding now is maybe the time to move out, sending out a handful of zealots and a couple Corsairs. CudleZerg, however, currently has no anti-air. Does have a spire that he just started. Is making creep colonies to transform, I imagine, into spores at all of his bases, and a 5th hatchery. And these Corsairs starting to work on these overlords. However, the spore is finished. Will the Protoss decide to sacrifice these Corsairs to this spore just to get these overlords? And opting to send those in. However, Zealots decided to attack the 3rd. Has some reinforcements coming in, it looks like. Nope, deciding to back off with those. CudleZerg in a little bit of a trouble. Doesn't have anything there to really defend. Is using the workers from his mineral line to try to warp in some Sunkens. Meanwhile, has Lings hatching out. Will probably be able to save this area. And these creep colonies immediately being warped into Sunkens. Still currently no upgrades despite getting that evolution chamber so early. Spire is finished, however, do not see any Mutas or Scourge out on the field. And these Lings going across for a counterattack or to possibly to scout things out. Seeing that there's no 3rd base currently. Is going to run across these probes, which causes skyFORKnet to immediately start attacking these Lings. CudleZerg opting to try to get these Lings behind something to try to hide them from these Protoss units, but unsuccessful as they just start slaughtering all of them. Is able to escape with a few. Does see a High Templar, however, opting to not try and snipe that. Does have enough for one storm, however. And unfortunately, these Lings unable to get away. Corsairs, though, rushing in. Zealots as well. skyFORKnet going for an attack. Pushing forward. Is sacrificing those Corsairs with no targets to that spore colony. However, basically storming away all these Lings. CudleZerg has more Lings hatching finally, but only has a couple Sunkens. Is running these drones away. However, that High Templar actually didn't have us enough for another storm. So, and now running them back as he sees them morphing into an Archon. And meanwhile, skyFORKnet taking that third base. CudleZerg finally able to clean that up. However, another small army of Corsairs and Zealots just chilling, ready to attack at the moment's notice. These 4 Lings gonna scout out this Nexus after seeing the probe move over there from that Overlord. Is attacking the Nexus now. We'll see if he'll be able to get it to cancel. I imagine with this incoming Protoss army, though, not likely at all. And we do see a drone down here about to expand for CudleZerg. Is going to run these Lings around this army. However, these Lings have no hope of doing basically anything. Is going to get a good scout of all of the tech that skyFORKnet has and a good shot of the gateways. skyFORKnet also adding on that 4th Nexus. And researching +1 armor, does have +1 attack ready. Meanwhile, CudleZerg opting for the Hydra technology, does have a bunch of his Hydras ready, and +1 ranged attack finally finished, and taking that 4th hatchery. Hydra range about halfway done, or excuse me, about 90% of the way done now. Does have an observatory, and making double Stargate Corsairs, however, only making out of 1 of them currently. Does have a sizable Zealot force with a couple High Templars. Meanwhile, CudleZerg still opting for the Hydralisks. Researching Lurkers. Also researching Hive. And this massive Protoss army hanging out. What does skyFORKnet want to do with it? And skyFORKnet just checking everywhere all the time. CudleZerg will not be able to sneak any expansions with the amount of probes running around. And CudleZerg finally deciding to mine his back entrance out, allowing his drones to properly Maynard over there. Does have a sizable Hydra force, but skyFORKnet currently 60 supply lead roughly. CudleZerg moving out. Is spotted on one side by the observer, however, skyFORKnet rushing over to try to save this expansion, however, immediately getting assaulted by these units as they come up, deciding to take on this flank instead of rush forward to save his expansion. Is CudleZerg going to be able to take out this Nexus before this army catches up to him? Currently, Storm's connecting pretty decently. Does have a couple kills. And is going to be able to get this Nexus. And starting to research, or excuse me, morph Lurkers. However, this is way too many Zealots. And currently, the upgrades do favor the Protoss, so should be able to easily run over this army, especially throw down a couple Storms. And with that, the supply still roughly a 60 supply difference in favor of skyFORKnet. However, CudleZerg has just barely enough, it seems, to hold on. skyFORKnet is sending in more of these Corsairs, but again, they're immediately pushed away by this Spore Colony and Hydra. However, trying to sacrifice them and losing them in return without a single kill. We do have plenty of Hydra production coming out of CudleZerg, and a few Lurkers morphing at each location. Looks like we have +2 range attack and +1 carapace almost finished as well. With that, and when those finish, it should actually swing back into CudleZerg's favor, considering Protoss is still only 1-1 and is not looking like they're researching any upgrades anytime soon. Meanwhile, CudleZerg getting Overlord speed. +1 carapace is already finished. +2 to range attack almost finished. However, despite seeing a hive, do not see any hive tech, opting to stay on this Hydra lurker force and trying to do a little scouting, sending a 12-ish Hydras up here to this base, hoping that skyFORKnet maybe would have expanded there or is currently expanding there. However, no base, and will trade some of these Hydras out for that folly. Is able to rescue a few of them, however, about half of them blowing up. CudleZerg also looking like he was going to try to expand there, but deciding, no, I don't think I'll do that. Is, however, looking like he might take this as his 5th base. But in the meantime, skyFORKnet sending in a little zealot force to scout things out, deciding maybe it's time to commit his full forces. We do still currently have about a 70 supply differential. However, skyFORKnet, after losing pretty much about a third of his forces, decides, actually I'm not going to break that, and runs back with his army. Meanwhile, cannons being made at pretty much all of the expansions. However, completely mined out in his main, almost mined out in the natural, and almost mined out at the 3rd. Pretty much leaving this as his currently only mineral source. And again, CudleZerg screening with some of these troops, forcing the armies into unfavorable positions and then rushing another army behind it to take out these expansions. And opting to shoot the cannons and the probes. Is going to lose some of these Hydras to that storm, and that is a pretty beautiful storm. Taking out 4 or 5 Hydras. Now deciding to focus fire the Nexus. However, with this army coming up, I don't know if he'll be able to get it. However, hold the phone. These Zealots bugging out on each other, unable to get to these Hydras. Is he going to be able to do it? Oh, and skyFORKnet barely saving the Nexus at 34 HP. Meanwhile, 5th base started for CudleZerg. Looks like we have +2 to carapace and +3 ranged attack also started. And these Zealots running in, finding these Hydras and Lurkers in an unfavorable position. And the Archon even moving down, trying to attack the Sunken. Is able to take 1 out and an Overlord. However, I don't imagine that Archon will, in fact, dying as we say it. skyFORKnet opting for a 5th, is adding some cannons. Pretty much down to just still this base is his only mineral expansion. And at 34 HP, I can't imagine that's going to stay on the field much longer. I can imagine CudleZerg just marching across the map and shooting that down sometime soon. Meanwhile, CudleZerg almost finished with the hatchery at the 5th base. Is moving up with some Hydras. Is able to scout this base by just moving the Hydras up from his 5th base on the way to the 3rd, or excuse me, the 4th. However, that's forced a reaction from skyFORKnet. skyFORKnet in an immediate rush mode to try to take out these Hydras before they blow up this base. However, skyFORKnet getting distracted by that army marching around the outside. However, is finally able to work his way down and cover enough storm for the tri-state area all over these Hydras, blowing them up. However, some of these Hydras picking off High Templars and running around. Ooh. Unfortunately, storming a bunch of his own units. Is, however, probably going to be able to take out this hatchery. And starting a 6th base up here at the 10 o'clock. skyFORKnet taking down this 5th base of CudleZerg. CudleZerg trying to move in to support it. However, at this point, kind of a moot point, considering the fact that it's already dead. Taking a lot of damage off these storms. Not microing his Hydras out of them. Will have to cross these double bridges to the safety of his Lurkers and Sunkens. And these Zealots, pretty weak from the storms they took earlier, immediately evaporating to these Lurker spines. High Templar able to stack some of these drone kills. However, ultimately, skyFORKnet not able to penetrate this Zerg defense line with all of this SimCity, Lurker, Sunken, and Hydra defense. Now opting to try the third, however, running into the same issue roughly. Lots of Hydras, lots of Lurkers, and lots of Sunkens. Meanwhile, opting to try again for the sixth down here. Has fully saturated the fifth that finished up here at 10 o'clock. And pushing forward with some more remaining units, trying to take out what he can. However, Sunkens, Hydras, Lurkers, overpowered. Is able to get a few kills with that storm, however, CudleZerg seems to just keep making Hydras. And the supply differential completely equalized almost. Roughly 80 supply for both players. Situation that more favors the Zerg than the Protoss. And these Hydras moving up. Are they going to be able to snipe this Nexus here? No, opting to focus on these cannons for some reason instead of the Nexus and running back. Is able to get a few probe kills, but running up here to check out if they've tried to, if skyFORKnet's tried to take this main, and seeing that he has, is going to shut down some of these cannons and then park behind the mineral line, it looks like. Meanwhile, skyFORKnet should clean this up pretty quickly. 2 hurt Hydras immediately getting eviscerated by a couple Zealots. Meanwhile, CudleZerg remaking the 5th. Has mined out at his main almost. Almost mined out of the natural. Does still have roughly most of the minerals at his 3rd. However, 4th almost mined out, so he really needs this base. And CudleZerg pushing back that small remnants of Protoss units chasing his Hydras. However, skyFORKnet does see this hatchery and attacking it with the scouting probes. However, CudleZerg opting to shut down this Nexus before it really kicks in for skyFORKnet. Does only have roughly 2 bases for minerals currently. Is able to kill a couple Hydras with those storms, however, after that, immediately dying to the Hydra force. The CudleZerg working on this Nexus. Will he be able to take it out before all his units are taken out? Is microing around these storms. And is able to take it up with a few reinforcements coming in at the very end. However, that storm, again, hurting some of skyFORKnet's own units. And as skyFORKnet moves out, CudleZerg rushes to reinforce his base. However, skyFORKnet more interested in attacking this one up here. skyFORKnet may be trying to remake that Nexus sometime soon. Opting to make a crap ton of cannons at a couple of his bases. Very afraid of a Hydra bust. Meanwhile, opting to attack the new Natry, trying to break down the expansion and able to dodge that storm at the last second by just moving back to reinforce his Hydras. 3-2 Hydras versus still 1-1 Protoss units. I gotta say, the Hydras doing some very, very high work for CudleZerg right now. Rushing in with some more reinforcements. Is about equal in the amount of army units currently. And out of storm, so immediately will evaporate these Protoss units. And with another batch of reinforcements should easily reclaim this area and protect this new expansion. Meanwhile, opting to make the cannons before the Nexus to help secure this location. skyFORKnet though, I don't know if he'll be able to hold that against these 3-2 Hydras. Meanwhile, Still, not very many minerals left at this expansion. This expansion, though, it is still pretty fresh. And CudleZerg pushing up with these Hydras and holding off the army coming down to try to save it. Will blow up these cannons. skyFORKnet basically down to a handful of units right now. Has almost no army supply. And CudleZerg shutting down this expansion basically permanently. I don't believe with the amount of units the skyFORKnet has that they'll ever be able to reclaim that area. However, this area, secure. This area may be secure, but that nexus could potentially be picked off sometime. And this area, completely unmined. Meanwhile, skyFORKnet is doing the best it can by storming all the Hydras as possible. However, microing out of those storms pretty quickly, minimizing the amount of damage that it takes. And the rest of these Hydras fighting against these Zealots is going to take out this High Templar. Targeting the cannons once again. No, oh, now finally opting to take out the rest of this Nexus. And losing several probes from his own storm. skyFORKnet now in a lot of trouble. Unable to secure this position thanks to these Hydras coming up and protecting the expansion. And quickly run out of minerals here. And here, probably have to long distance mine these, as it's not really worth it to make a Nexus to gain like 40 minerals. Is trying to opt again to make this Nexus here, but doesn't seem to really have a way to protect it. Meanwhile, CudleZerg, still sitting on a fat bank, has a pittance of minerals here down at his natural. Pittance of minerals at his third. However, does have this base fully ready to go, basically unmined. Could possibly look into getting this this Nexus over here, and then taking that out and planting his own hatchery there. However, skyFORKnet, despite not having very many units a second ago, is able to cobble together a minor Protoss force with some Zealots, High Templars, and Dragoons. And skyFORKnet rushing out to defend his only mineral mining base right now. CudleZerg has sent a plethora of Hydras. However, if these storms can connect just right, there shouldn't be any reason why CudleZerg should be able to take this Nexus. Rushing up, trying to attack the Nexus and focus fire it, but way too many High Templars, way too many cannons. However, skyFORKnet, again, storming his units almost to death. However, is going to move out, try and take a 7th here. And Hydras attacking the probes as they come in, trying to take this Nexus. And moving some lurkers up there as well. However, these High Templars moving down, trying to threaten as best they can. But realistically, there's a lot of Hydras here. And a lot of these storms aren't really connecting on very many Hydras. CudleZerg putting in place some of these lurkers from before that he had. Is opting still to make pure Hydras, basically. skyFORKnet remaking that Nexus there. Does also have almost no minerals here now. This Nexus is extremely important to keep him in the game. Scouting things out, however, immediately running into that Overlord there. Trying to spot for some DTs. And skyFORKnet finally able to eke out 2-2. However, literally 50 minerals left here, transferring the probes. Meanwhile, CudleZerg also reinforcing his new expansions with some defenses, not allowing skyFORKnet to really threaten them in any way. And those Zealots run right into the lurkers, and then right into the Hydras behind them. However, is able to start mining this just a little bit. does have a couple cannons warping in as well to try to defend this position. However, CudleZerg is able to defend and expand his army a little bit more. He'll be able to overrun this expansion and keep his expansion safe, no problem. Probes going. And then we have drones mining. Drones mining. However, no gas taken yet at either location. Probably feel like he has enough gas as is. However, skyFORKnet has maybe 1,000 minerals, a little over 1,000 minerals left in these patches. Meanwhile, these patches basically completely new. But it's not looking good. CudleZerg even taking the supply lead for the first time in the game, roughly. Has finally put together one last army. However, if he loses this, I don't see any way skyFORKnet will be able to survive. And CudleZerg finally moving out, seeing if skyFORKnet has expanded to this location yet at all. Starting to focus down the Nexus. If he's able to take this out, that will basically spell doom for skyFORKnet's chances. And he does take it out. skyFORKnet basically has to make this army work that he has right now. Otherwise, CudleZerg looking like he will probably take this game, keeping his bases intact. And skyFORKnet will basically have to decide between pumping out a few more units in long-distance mining or attempting to remake the Nexus here with no more units. Meanwhile, is sending a few units out to try and scout the defenses around these expansions. However, running into massive amounts of Hydralisks. And these probes, massive long-range mining. Observer, following these Hydralisks around. Is able to finally catch this army as it moves up into his into his 7th, sniping these workers. However, CudleZerg, massive 30 supply lead currently, is able to blow up a few more Hydras. However, skyFORKnet's army looking like mostly High Templars. Is able to defend the long distance mining, at least for now. Meanwhile, CudleZerg still remaking Hydras. Full 3-3. We do have 3-2 for skyFORKnet. CudleZerg even researching Overlord drops. Roughly 33 minutes into the game. Maybe deciding to go for a Doom drop to finish this game off. However, I don't think he'll even get that far, considering skyFORKnet, as soon as he loses this army, is basically out of the game. And in fact, CudleZerg trying to scout out where potentially there might be some weak spots for drops. Meanwhile, skyFORKnet sending out a observer and some probes to try to scout out the area. Still has not remade that Nexus, opting to pump out just a last few amount of units. And skyFORKnet does see that spore colony there, however, immediately running into the Overlords and Hydras. And CudleZerg forcing the situation again, trying to shut off the long-range mining. skyFORKnet being forced to make a decision and spend a lot of his energy on these High Templars. Meanwhile, CudleZerg spreading his Hydras out, microing them back non-stop, trying to bait out these storms. Is going to lose most of this batch of Hydras that he brought up, though, retreating back to that 3rd base. And skyFORKnet is going to follow him with a few units, But at this point, you know, he can't really afford to bleed these units, so I don't know why he's trying to do this. Losing that observer as well. And skyFORKnet. Basically a control group worth of High Templars. And a few goons. And an Archon. Now moving in to attack this Zerg army in one last hurrah. And putting down so many storms. In fact, so many storms he ends up killing about a third of his High Templar army. Is going to be able to get some of these workers, however, CudleZerg able to run these drones away. And losing some of these High Templars down to just one, maybe two more. Has lost all of his army. And with that, skyFORKnet, GG's.